Okay guys, not only did I realize this axle was spinning freely, there was another one over here spinning freely. It's this one. So, let me show you guys what's going on here. If you look here, there's some pins there. You see it? And like some shear pins that locks these sprockets on the axle. So it's a great safety feature for you breaking the axle. And by this adding this higher horsepower engine, I've sheared a couple of them off. You can see that's it right there. We gotta uncover it. Let me see if I can show you guys. The pin broke, it's moving. I can see it's moving pretty freely up in there. So looks different from that one. Maybe somebody replaced this one already. Oh, this is the top side of it. I don't know, that looks different. So it's sheared off, so the wheel just spins freely. So I gotta take it out and drill the axle out and remove the chain. The front is gonna be a nightmare to get out. So let me get this wheel off and let me start removing the chains. Here it is, I got one of them out. Looks like a poor choice of metal, but I know it's to protect it. So I gotta pull these axles off and look, they're gonna slide out. Gotta remove these 4 nuts so I can pull it all the way out. Okay guys, we got it removed. The front may don't be as bad as I think. We're gonna see though. We're gonna see. Didn't take no time to remove this, but you see you gotta have the axle. So I may can tap it out here. The bearing looks really good, surprisingly. So it must have been greased well. There we'll put some silicone around. We'll put some waterproof silicone around the base of that when we mount back up. Clean these bolts off. And get this fixed. So, unfortunately, I can't find these pins nowhere. So what we're gonna do to make sure this holds better than before was, let's try some bolts, man. Maybe some grade 8, some as far as strength-wise bolts. So that's what we're gonna do. So let me tap this out. Hopefully it'll tap out. If not, drill it out. And we gotta find some bolts that'll fit directly into both. Like with minimum play, no play, can't have any play. That's important. So here go one of the shear pins. Let's get out into some light. You guys can see it. The metal don't look that great. Or it's due to age. So I may can find some shear pins at a local tractor shop, but I want to go with some bolts. With a stronger metal. Okay guys, I bought 2 sides of bolts. These 2 inches or this 1.5 inch. Come to find out, these are perfect. So these are the boats you want to get. Grade 8 boats. 5/16, 2.5 inch. These are perfect fit. And I got some lock washers and some nuts. I'll show you all that in a second. All right, guys, we got it. Use this little wrench to get in there and turn it. Put the nut on, small little lock washer like that. I use this to angle in there and twist it down. Just snug tight. You don't even need the nut or the washer, because when you knock the bolt in, you have to tap it in. Let me pull one out so I can show you guys. When you get this in, it'll go into about where the top of my finger right here, maybe about right here, and you have to tap it the rest of the way, because this shaft fits in there snugly. Like it fits in there like perfectly between the axle and that sprocket. It's like a perfect fit, and it wedges in there. It wedges in there when you tap it down. I used this pointed chisel and tapped it down in there, and it was wedged in there tight. Didn't even need a nut because it ain't going nowhere. And this is fixed perfectly. I'll show you guys. We're sealed up. You guys can see the gasket sealing oozing out around here. I didn't put much. Just wanted to get a nice seal. This is it right here. So I'm gonna paint this wheel. We're gonna paint all the wheels. So I'm gonna leave that off for right now. And you're gonna paint the wheels. So I'm gonna go to the other side, fix the other side since this side is done, torqued down. But so far, pretty much a simple fix. You gotta make sure you find the right bolts, and I kind of did the work for you guys. Just if you have this problem, that's what you need. So I'm gonna pop that chain back on, and that's it for this side. All right, guys, we got this one out. A little bit more difficult than these per se. These are easy, but I guess the good thing is I'm finally gonna replace that last chain that needs to be replaced. But you know, there's really no space here to work with, so getting this off was as opposed to challenge. But you know, if the top was off, if this top section was off, it'll be super lot easier to get to. You can do everything you want because you got some space to work up here. But trying to work out this little section here. I'm turn the light back on. You're trying to work out this section here. It's not much space because you need to be in this area. But, we got it out of there. I have to remove the chain, but and do a few things to it. But make sure you get the sprocket. The gasket steel is reusable. I'm gonna put some silicone around it, make sure it seals okay. But you guys can see. This part is okay, but if I spin it around, you're gonna see how it tore out of there. Look at that. That's a wider gap. Or some force to bend that metal like this. This thing is pretty heavy and pretty thick. It's got some weight to it. So to kind of bend that metal like that took some force. Look how thick it is. It's pretty thick. So I'll come through this side with my pen/bolt. So I'll come through this way with it. Yeah, I should see this. And it's gonna be tougher to get a nut on this one because this one seems to be smaller, even though it look the same, or it seems to be more narrow than the other sprocket. If I'm gonna be able to get a nut on here, it'll just barely be able to get on here. I'm probably gonna put some thread lock on it to hold that nut in place. But once I get it in there, that's gonna act like a pin and lock in place. So trust me, it's not gonna come out, but yeah, that's how much sticking out. I probably could use an Allen bolt to fit right in there a little bit better. This probably was a better choice, an Allen bolt. But if I can get a grade 8 Allen bolt, that probably would have been better. 5/16. I'm gonna go to Menards and see about a grade 8 Allen bolt. Okay, guys, so this is what we're using. This is much better than this setup. Even though these are grade 8 bolts, those are grade 6 bolts, it's still well over enough for it to not shear off. You gotta worry about it shearing off. If it is, this is hard to get this nut on because you have to use this wrench and keep putting on it. Use some thread locker on the nut so it can hold in place. But this is the route to go. This is the route you want to go. These are grade 6 bolts. Takes the Allen key. Look at that, just perfect. So you can tighten it up. You know, if it shears off, it just comes right off. But it's easy to stick this Allen key in there or a long Allen key on a bit and just drill it on the nut, because the nut, you don't have no room to turn it. You have no room to turn the nut, but by the nuts holding in place, you can just zoom out so you guys can see. You can just take it off or tighten it up easily, because the nut is not going to move because it barely have any space between us. See that there's no space, so the nut is held on by the sprocket here, and we're gonna use some thread lock on it. And yeah, that's gonna work perfectly. So this is the route I would advise you guys to go. This is the bolt size you want to go with. The 5/16. The holes are 5/16. They fit perfectly. I mean, just perfect fit for 5/16 bolts. 18/2. This is the one you want to go, whether using the grade 8 bolts or these. But this is the route I'll go. I'll eventually do this in all the while the shears are at. You know, this is the way to go. This is the route to go. This is the strong machine bolt, grade 6 steel. Takes the Allen key. And just using one of these, since I got a bunch of these grade 8 bolts, fits perfect on here. I'll show you guys. You don't need a grade 8 5/16 nut, but I got a bunch of nuts, so we're just using these since I got them already. But this is the setup, and some thread lock, because you won't be able to get a washer on there, and it's not going anywhere. And this fits down in there pretty firmly. There's no play whatsoever between this sprocket and this axle. No play at all, just a snug fit, perfect fit. And you can remove it easily, or you can tighten it easy. So this is the route you should go, because this round here allows you to turn it. So I'll do that for all the rest of the shears. But right now, let's get this back installed. Once I get that installed, I'm gonna paint the rims. I started with this one already. I started with that one. You guys can see that looks pretty good. I'm gonna just sprayed a little light coat over it. So I'm gonna sand them down, get all the rust sanded down, and then we're gonna paint them before we put them back on. I'm gonna reverse these tires because I think they're on the wrong way. I'm gonna put this set of tires on the opposite side so they can be okay. But we're gonna paint the body back black, make it look nice, and then we're gonna start putting everything back together. Also bought a new fuel pump. This is the original fuel pump. Just bought a new fuel pump. It'll be here tomorrow. So installing that right now. And I'll show you guys this. This clutch is fine. This one needs relined. And that's another reason it's not turning on a dime. So the lining in that cone is pretty much done. That cone needs relining, and we're gonna get that did. But everything else looks really good here. Really good. So let's get this axle and sprocket on in place, and we're gonna be good. Let's do that right now. Okay, we're gonna use this. Still has a gasket on there. Still gonna work. I'm gonna put a little bit behind the gasket and some in front of it. and we're gonna be good. Okay, show you guys some things I just did. I'm gonna clean it off and paint that back black at the bottom, make it look really nice. It already looks good. For those of you that haven't watched previous videos on the channel on this machine, the inside was already really nice, but I put Flex Seal. I sprayed Flex Seal everywhere. This thing is solid. Flex Seal all throughout this machine. When I took the motor out, when I removed the motor, I sprayed everywhere. All in there. So this is what I had to do. The brakes were worn some, so I had to readjust the brakes for the clutch. I had to adjust the steering brake. That has to be 1/16 of an inch. So I adjusted that on both sides. And like I was saying earlier, I have to remove that cone and get that cone realigned. But to redo that, there's not many videos on these online where nobody's working on these things. I'm not familiar with them, but there's nothing on earth I cannot fix. It is cool just seeing the old technology and how they put things together. So that's the fun of it for me, just to see how things were made back in the old days. This machine is probably 50 years old, and it's hard to find parts for it. It's really hard to find parts. So if I gotta fabricate some stuff or do some things, I kind of will do it by myself. But yeah, we got all new chains now. This is the final chain that I didn't replace. Replacing that chain. Fuel pump is decent, but we're putting a brand new fuel pump on it since I got everything out the way right now. I should have been did it when I had the motor out here. And I have a new coil on here. But to readjust that brake, there's 4 bolts. There's 2 here. Get a light. And 2 on the opposite side. They're 9/16 bolts, if I'm not mistaken. Then they go down there. That one and that one. I think you can get away with just doing the outer ones. The ones, this one, what I'm pointing to, and this one. Right here, the 2 front ones. Because if you look in here really good, you can see where the brake. If you look down there really good, you can see where the brake is mounted on the front 2. Only on the front 2 bolts are holding it, holding that bracket for the brake. That bracket right there. Look at that bracket, what the brake is made onto, is holding it in place. Just the front 2. And you can, once you loosen the bolts up, once you loosen the nuts, pop this somewhere. Like I said, there's not videos on this, nobody's working on this thing online. Once you loosen those nuts, I loosen all 4 of them. Just be careful, because when you loosen all 4 of them up, this move freely. This rod. Once you loosen these 4 bolts up, this lever moves freely, so you have to be careful with that, because it'll throw the steering out of line. But just to avoid that, this linkage here, you can just remove. You can take the bolt off here or there, here, and remove the linkage if you want to hold this in place. But it's super easy to adjust. And once you loosen those 4 bolts up, where's the long flathead screwdriver here, and I just pulled it forward, pulled the brake forward until I adjusted it to 1/16 of an inch. And then I tighten everything back up. 9/16 bolts. Yep, they're 9/16. So hopefully me doing all these videos on this machine will help somebody out. Like I said, there's quite a few videos of people riding them, but nothing with nobody's working on them, period. Nothing, not one video on YouTube that I've found that somebody's working on them besides my videos that I've been posting lately on this thing. And it's exciting. It's pretty cool that I can post some cool videos on it and help others out if whoever stumbles on one of these machines. Like I said, this model is the smaller model. I think the larger model, these axles was key to the sprockets, which would have been great. I wouldn't have to do this. Let me show you guys another thing I did. I was seeing some things online about these axles and being a brake. But there's so much force, especially with this powerful motor. Man, this shaft is pretty heavy. It's got some weight to it, so it'll take a ton of force, a tremendous amount of force to bend them. But I've read some things, some posts about it happening. So let me show you guys what I did. See the nut down inside of here. I put some Gorilla Glue to glue it in place because it's gonna be tough. Since this top is since this top is not off, it's gonna be tough for me to get inside of here with none of this stuff removed and try to hold that nut in place while I screw that bolt in. So I glued the nut in place with some Gorilla Glue because I can't tack weld it because my weld wouldn't reach down in there. I started to get as close as possible and just shoot the weld there and get it to just tack it. So I was gonna tack it, but I couldn't tack it because, like I said, this is so narrow. But the glue is fine, it's holding. I glued it yesterday, so I'm good. Oh, let me show you guys the wheels also. I got one more wheel to paint. That one right there, I'm gonna paint that one. But this one's done. Oh, it's good, look at that. Look at that, guys, it's good. Let me show you the other ones. They turned out pretty decent. Pretty decent. I'm gonna throw another coat on them. But they look good. Another coat. Got some spots I missed, but they look good, guys. And it's nice and sunny out. They look good. Let me get this axle back on. These sprockets lined up and that chain. Put my new shear bolt in place and start reassembling this thing. I'm also adding LED lights. The LED lights that I bought for this machine wasn't working. They wouldn't work under the load. They'll pulsate more than work. I'm mounting a smaller battery here, these two holes there, and we putting LED lights here, LED light there. It's gonna look really nice. You guys don't see that. It's gonna be cool. So I'm reinstalling my LED lights and just making this thing overall decent, man. That's the goal. So the fuel pump came. What else I'm doing? We got all new chains now, all brand new chains in this thing. My only issue is this clutch. It needs relined. There's pretty much not much inside of there. I know I showed yesterday, so you can look in there. You can still see there's a nice amount of material still on that lined in that cone. Nice amount. You can see where the seam is, whereas this side there's nothing, just a little bit. So that's the only issue I'm gonna face. But the brakes has some meat on them, not bad. Steering brakes has meat on them, not bad. Yeah, so let me get to what I think I want to show. I got some, you can see I got some paint on the wheels, and that's because I didn't do a good job. It's because this can that I use as a base coat, the nozzle kind of broke on me, and the paint just started running out of here. Look at this, just started running out of here and just dripping everywhere. Okay, let's see if the nut is gonna hold in place. I got it Gorilla Glue. All right. Magnet. Success. And our nut is right in place. It's tough. You ain't got no. I couldn't get a welder in there. You have to clean the surface really good. So let's glue this all up with some of this, and then we're gonna be good. Okay, we got some sealing on the inside of that gasket and the outside. As you guys can see, make sure no water leaks because we're gonna be in the water soon. So let me remove this shaft and remove the sprocket off the shaft and start putting it through. We got our nut holding in place. Man, it's so narrow between the sprocket. You gotta have the chains removed and like Gorilla Glue is holding. So you want to set the sprocket in there first, and then push the shaft through, and then work your way for this bearing. The bearing in here, they okay. I'll grease them up. There's no play in the bearing, so I'll leave that bearing there. But should be easy to replace if I want to replace them. But yeah, we're gonna leave that sprocket in place like so, and we're gonna push that shaft through and put it in place. Put the bolts on here. You want the grease fitting like the other ones, facing towards the front. They're facing towards the front of the amphibious vehicle. And then we're gonna grease them all too. We're gonna use some grease gun. We're gonna grease all the fittings because I never greased those fittings, and the grease seems to be dried up, although the bearings are spinning freely and there's no play in the bearings. I put a little bit of this lithium grease on the shaft. I could also use some of this bearing grease, but I've had a lot of great success with this stuff here. Had it for a long time, but the stuff has been great. And then I set the shaft in and I tighten it up. You can see the sealing oozing out along the sides. I just kind of spread it out with my finger around the sides. Should be good, leak free. Before I put the wheels on, I'll grease the bearings. We'll clean this up, pressure wash this with this guy here, and spray it black. Spray everything black. The hubs, everything black to protect them from rust. And we'll be all good. So now is the hard part, is getting that shear bolt in place. But I'm gonna get it with no problem. I guarantee I am. Be back in a second. So I used my magnet right there. Use a small magnet to set the bolt down in there right now. Just gotta push it down. Get a good angle for you guys to see. You guys can see it right there. Trying to zoom in. So I gotta push it down through now. All right, we gotta push down and twist the axle so it can be facing me. There it is, facing me. Zoom out so I can get my bearings. But it's lined up with the bolt. We're gonna screw that thing right in with the Allen key or just a drill bit. But I'm gonna take my time and screw it in. I can use it on my impact with a long Allen bit, but I'm gonna take my time and do it. I'll show you guys what I'm using. we got it tight. Also put some thread locker on that bolt, and we got it. We got it, guys. We got it. Look in there.